Welcome back to my very first Musings episode, A, of 2019, but B, since like September last year, so nearly 5 months. I haven't had anyone on the podcast ever since I had a couple of business partners leave the gym, and so shit got busy for me. And so I parked this side of things. Yeah, literal shit. And I've got a dog, actually, and so more shit got busy. But then you guys, both Richard and Julien from StrongFit, are coming to Australia. You're coming to my gym in April. And so I want to get you guys back on. I mean, Rich, you and I chat every other month anyway. A, talk shit again. But B, also hear a lot. Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys can do that or not.
Talk shit. Yeah. I've been practicing since last time. So I'm learning the skill. Don't worry.
Yeah. So the next one after talking shit is dribbling shit, which, I can show you how to do that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Layer Cake, by the way, movie with Daniel Craig?
The what Layer Cake?
It's called the Layer Cake.
What year did this come out in?
Doesn't matter. It's early. No. It's early one. By the way, it's one of the first movie. What's the name of the English actor that plays Bane?
Matt Hardy.
All right. It's one of his early movies.
Tom Hardy.
Sorry. Tom Hardy. Ooh, all the girls are upset at you right now.
They are.
So it's one of Tom Hardy's earliest movie. Daniel Craig in England, before he's known as James Bond and everything, is one of the best movies he's ever done.
Right.
And at the end, basically talks about shit like you're born, you take a shit. You grow up in the world, you take more shit.
Yeah.
You get up in hell, you take less shit. And one day you're up in a stratosphere, you don't even know what shit looks like.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Layer Cake, son.
Right.
Oh, you have to see the end. It's so good.
That's great. It reminds me of like when you're 20, you care about what everyone thinks about you. When you're 40, you don't give a shit about what everyone thinks about you. And then when you're 60, you realize no one thinks about you.
Yeah, pretty much right.
Yeah. So it's good. So Rich, Jules, if you guys give me a quick breakdown, and the listeners more so, of an introduction of who you are and what you guys do, and then we're going to talk about the seminar and more dribble from there, if that's cool with you guys.
For sure.
If you go, no, you go. I'm the nervous system. You go.
It's just Pepper Rock.
So we kind of do this StrongFit stuff, which started out as movement-based fun things. And we've kind of become into learning, basically trying to educate people as to how humans learn and how to get the most out of people. I don't even.
Well, you can't coach people if they don't know how to learn, right? Because coaching is still teaching, and if people can't learn, you're gonna have a very hard time teaching them. So at first it was movement, because that's something I talk about in one of the podcasts. Like when I did jiu-jitsu, I think I've learned jiu-jitsu once I found my half guard. Why? Because it allowed me to work at mastering one thing, and through that one thing that I worked so hard on, I actually learned to learn jiu-jitsu. Before that, I was just fighting, repeating stuff. I wasn't learning jiu-jitsu. I was just muscling my way through, just not learning. And then the half guard forced me into a learning mindset, which was an inch at a time of mastery of one thing. And that led me to actually understand jiu-jitsu. So that's what we want, really, the seminar was about. It was like, you need to master one thing to understand the whole thing, right? So I don't even care which angle people will take. It can be movement, it can be understanding the nervous system, it can be nutrition, whatever it is. But basically we want to show people how to understand the human element. And it takes basically, but the thing is, you have to find a way there, right? It's like a maze. There's one way to go there for you, and everybody's different on that, right? And so we're trying to cover as much as we can for people to really even give them the passion to pursue one thing, which I think is how you learn, is you have to find your color. And once you find that one thing where you go like, this is what I want, then you master that. And that's what the seminar is about, is we will try to explain as much of those colors as we can.
Okay.
Or at least tell people they are different colors. Let's put it this way.
Okay. And I want to get back with a question in that now. Julien, a quick introduction from you to the listeners as well, because you got nervous and then he started talking about learning, and then you stopped your nervousners and just fucking started going, which is great. So now that there's like, being the nervous poop, so to speak, metaphor has left the building. Can you give my listeners a bit of a background into who you are? And then I'm going to be asking how StrongFit actually came to be, and go from there, if that's cool.
Well, the metaphor has not left the building, trust me. But so I've been in sports all my life. Like I started playing soccer at a national level. I was like, I don't know, 9, 10, literally on a French team at that time. And my whole life has always been sports. Always, always, always. And then I found MMA, I was like 19, 20. And that's when I found coaching as well. Then I realized I enjoy coaching even more than I enjoyed training and competing. And so this life has been my life always. Like I've dabbled into other stuff, like, you know, good French family. They wanted me to be, I don't know, doctor, psychiatrist, something like that would not make me a black sheep. Exactly, respectable.
Yeah, sure.
I did not win that, by the way.
Color in the lines, yeah.
Yeah, I did not win that one at all. I'm still a black sheep. But it's basically been my life the entire time. And coaching has been my passion always. Mm-hmm. And so as I move forward in life, I just try to become a better coach. And so that's how it started, StrongFit. Like I've done this my entire life, but I opened a gym when it was like 9 years ago or something like that. Yeah. And then I had to learn what a business is, by the way. And so it was mostly one-on-ones, right? So at first it was just like a trainer. And then I started to see more patterns, like the same kind of injuries coming up. You know, like you hear the lower back, you hear the knees, you hear the shoulder. And and I was like, there's got to be something. How come everybody has the same issues, right? So I was like, there's got to be a pattern. And so I started to ask questions about those patterns, and I realized that I did not get the answers. Not even the answers I wanted. I just didn't get answers. So I was like, all right, so I can bitch about it or I can try to fix it. So I was like, all right, fine. I'll try to find my own answers. And then as I moved forward, the rabbit holes kept opening up in front of me. So I kept going into each. And then the patterns start to get together. And then I had that's around the same time CrossFit started to blow up. So I had more CrossFitters coming because they have more lower back and shoulder issues. So that basically led me into that field. And then it started growing, podcast, meaning Richard. And then before you know it, the whole shit is on the road.
Okay. And so when you said you opened up a gym, like what style of gym? And I know that like looking at StrongFit as a concept, let alone training as a concept, is extremely go back to laid. It's fucking laid. But let's keep it simple. Like was it was it a strongman gym? What kind of gym was it?
So for me, training was not one thing. That was my the thing for me is like, you know, like this conversation on Olympic squat versus barbell squatting. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm like, still a human squatting the fucking thing. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be some pattern. So me, when I opened the gym, it was part strongman, part jiu-jitsu, part parkour, part bodybuilding, and then eventually put the CrossFit in there. To me, I was like, we need to, it's the Pareto distribution, right? You don't live in the extremes. Most of the time you live toward the center. It's a little bit the same as training. Yes, you can do a max rep, but you can't do it that often. You can also run a marathon, but you can't do it that often, at least for the... You shouldn't do it that often.
Unless you're fucking David Goggins, and then that's a whole nother...
Exactly. Yeah, but guess what? That's an extreme. There's one dude. Yeah.
Sure, right? Yeah. That's the extreme of the extreme, right?
Exactly. For everybody else, we're basically in the center. And then even if you talk to those guys, you realize how fucked up they are.
Yeah.
What was actually them. So there was like, guys, like I don't think... because like everybody is always... that life today is about producing, right? So it's about producing PRs, producing a higher deadlift and everything. But I was like, it takes 10 years to get strong. I'm 45 now. I don't want to stop lifting, right? So the idea that you start at 25 and you're broken by 30, I was like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like that. Plus, that's not the way, that's not what I want. Like, I don't want to coach people and break 100 to make one, or you're broken by 40, but you did, like I did 1,000 pounds yoke and I can still walk. My back isn't fucked. I don't need surgery. That was my way of looking at it. It's like, I want to achieve whatever it is that I can achieve, but I don't want to be broken in the process. So that required, I thought, more to be more balanced.
Okay.
Right. So the first gym that I opened was what I thought would be the more balanced way of training people, which was too outcome based. But anyway, so I wanted some parkour bodyweight stuff, right?
So
I thought you had
just there quickly. So you said it was too outcome based, as in like knowing what you know now, that the gym opened up outcome based, and you would change that had you opened the gym today.
Yes, completely. Okay. Like outcome in the sense of go do body weight, go do parkour, lift weight, go do powerlifting, go do strongman. So if you look, I was looking towards sports, to our outcome-based activities instead of move better, not more. Don't do more, do them better. So that's why I learned. And if I were to open a gym now, it would be like, look, there's a process, whether it's body weight or weight, and we can do all those things to have fun. But the key is it's not more, it's better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You need, and so better means what? Means people need to feel movement.
Okay.
Right? And that's where you see the, I would say, laziness of the fitness industry today, where everything is outcome based because that's easier to sell than it is you need to feel your glutes. This is actually a question we get at our seminars. And the guy, we're like, person needs to feel their glutes. And they're like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, that's the whole fucking point. That's why they hired you, right? So this is a lazy mentality of like, well, they tell me they can't feel it. I'm like, I know. And that's the problem, is they can't feel the movement. And your job is going to make them feel the movement.
Mm.
But so see, that's not outcome oriented in the sense of 5 more pounds on the bar or do this or do that. Suddenly it's about the person. So it's not about teaching the squat. It's about teaching that person to squat.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not the same.
No. We're talking from my reference. My words are simply looking at training a group of people compared to coaching an individual, right? Even better, coaching a group of individuals, which is very possible. You can.
When you teach an individual, because when you go to a seminar to learn the squat, they teach you the squat. But now you're going to have to come back to your gym and teach grandma to squat, which is not the same thing as Joe over there, who has a background of. So you're not teaching the squat. You're teaching each person to squat. And so to a seminar, and they're not teaching you what you need, which is how to apply it to grandma all the way to that. And that's where you see a lot of the problem is. And that's where mastery comes in. If you don't master humans, how can you coach the squat to grandma versus coaching it to Richard? They're not going to squat the same. Right? And so that to me is what the job of a coach is how are you going to teach that person to squat, not just to squat. There's no such thing as a squat. You're not teaching machines. It's each person will need to learn to squat. Yeah. And there's a shitload that goes into it suddenly. And that's what mastery is.
Okay. So understanding all that, which like it's 100% on board. Like one of the concepts that we had here even before, I actually think it's one of the reasons why Brock out of Brock and Hill put us in touch with you guys is because we have a system called Safe, Strong, Sexy, which is like, first, make the movement safe, which is good range of movement, good stability, then their ability to repeat that stability throughout that range of movement, and then make it strong. And strong doesn't necessarily mean add weight to a bar. Strong means a strong relationship with the body, right? Yeah. And then sexy meaning movement mastery. And so then it goes like fucking Anne, who's 47 with a couple of kids, doesn't need to snatch a barbell or a handstand to be a good mother. So the work with that individual to see where they need to be at. So I'm on board with you 100%. What I also want to know is people coming to the seminar that we're running on well, I'm not running. I'll be here though.
You'll be enjoying it. We'll be running it.
Having some fucking Irish coffees. But for those people coming, like all that sort of stuff is like, I cannot wait to hear more about it and to contribute to it and do all that sort of stuff and pull it apart because this industry needs better coaches. And that's not to say that people aren't becoming better. Everyone is a process. Every single person is a movie in motion.
Always.
And so it's more of these discussions that are allowing people to shift from the instruction-based trainer to a client-focused coach, right? And so in that space, separate from the coaching aspect, what else are people going to get out of coming to a StrongFit seminar?
So
from an objective standpoint,
thing is, we always start and we always kind of laugh about it. Like you're going to leave the seminar with more questions than answers.
Good.
If you're like, what's the fucking point of being here? But the whole point is to light a fire underneath your ass, right? Mm-hmm. And so we'll give you the tools for you to be able to go back home and actually progress in whatever it is you want. You're trying to coach, learn as a human being for yourself and then towards others. Mm-hmm. So it's part that you're going to definitely, we work on making sure that people start to understand more about themselves. This is part of the stuff that I kind of started to work with when I was there last year with the emotional stuff and the nervous system and just kind of playing around with that. We basically start to just give a different perspective to the same problems that everybody seems to be seeing, right? So we talk about the squat. We can teach the squat left and right about points of performance and position and all of this. But then at the end of the day is, I ask somebody, what does it feel like to squat? And they have no fucking clue how to answer. And then you ask them, okay, so what muscles do you want to feel? And they go, well, usually my low back blows up a little bit and my quads blow up. And I was like, and what about the glutes?
Yeah, that's not what we asked, though.
Yeah. And, you know, so then you trying to just approach questions that you may have in a different way and not giving you the answer in a silver platter or in a type A bullet point system, but giving you the guidelines for you to go explore what you want to learn. Yep. So we always have, and every seminar you can talk to all the mentorees that we have is every seminar is different because each crowd is different. Sure. And so at the beginning, if you're fucking quiet, coach is going to go off right now about bacteria and Provatella and all this kinds of shit.
Quantum mechanics and how they relate.
You'll just fucking sit there and glaze over. So if you want to understand just the basics of pure movement, then let's go at it. But you need to ask. And so that's really what the seminar is it's a weekend of meeting expectations. So I tell you my expectations for what you're going to get out of the weekend, which is learning something about yourself that you probably didn't know. Mm-hmm. And probably walking away with more questions, but yet more value as to who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in a perfect world, what I would like is that you leave the seminar, and you know what I was saying, like I learned jiu-jitsu from my half guard, right? Like if you ask someone, like, give me something you want to master, and then they'll tell you movement. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, no shit. No, but it's like you take Ido Portal. Like, how long does it take to master body weight movement? The dude has been at it for like, 20 years, probably his entire life anyway, and he's still not there. If you listen to it, it'll take you gifted 10 years of Ido Portal stuff just to master 3 movements. It doesn't work like that. You can't just tell me you're going to master movement. What I would like is someone to come and say, you know what? You lit a passion under my ass. I want to learn to squat. That. And that means that you're going to squat high bar, low bar. You're going to squat with a sandbag. And you're going to tell me exactly what it takes to squat. And that's a pursuit that's going to take you 3 years, 5 years. Where you're going to learn inch by inch, every single movement, every inch, how it feels, which muscle, why this muscle, and when you do that, it's going to open up the rabbit holes that will lead you to other places, but now you're learning. Mm-hmm. Right? I would like to see people passionate enough to say that they want to learn and therefore take one movement, start as white belts and go like, let me learn that movement and every fucking inch of it and why that works, why that doesn't, and do the whole process like that. Like knowledge is stolen, it's not given. Like that's something in that documentary Ramen Heads, where the guy does all ramen noodles, he's the best in Japan. I mean, they're probably the best in the world. And he doesn't say shit to his apprentices. They have to steal the knowledge from him. And I think a lot of it is that's how this works. Knowledge is stolen, not given. Which means we can open up the door for you, we can show you the different colors, but unless you come and go like, I want this, that little thing over there, and then I'm going to learn that fucking thing and be a master of that. In a perfect world, I would like to trigger that passion in someone. I can't give that passion to someone, but maybe I can create an interest and trigger something and allow people to learn through whatever it is we talk about. And so I try to cover all the principles, that I know anyway, not all of life, but the ones that I know, right? To see if we can steer something into a crowd of people that are burning out at an alarming rate. Like we get a lot of coaches that are just tired of doing class management instead of coaching. Most of them go into coaching because they love, it's like a priesthood, right? They do it out of wanting to save the world with the best intentions. And the love that they put out there is not always returned, right? And so they start burning out. They have crises of faith many times, wondering why is it that they do it when most people seem to care less about themselves than you do. And so it's a human side of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the challenges. So in today's climate, a lot of it becomes objective. And that's the pursuit, like you mentioned before, of numbers and all this sort of stuff. And what we're actually ignoring is that subjective component, which is the human element of the objective. Yeah. So it's like we're learning the objective
without humans either. Like this is logical positivism, and the Western science has been plagued by this since Aristotle, which is if I can't measure it, it doesn't exist. That's a fucking excuse to be lazy.
Yeah, sure.
Because if I don't have a test that tells me that you're happy or whatever, it doesn't exist. I'm just going to base it on the barbell and everything. That's easy. That's you know what this is? This is scientific cowardice, where you just refuse to move forward. And because there are questions that are hard to answer, you might not even being able to answer. This is scientific cowardice. That's what logical positivism is. And so instead of that, you're going to hide behind numbers. And I did my job because you got a 5-pound PR. where, as you said, the mom who's 40 with 2 kids, that was never the job. The job was never that. The job was she can sleep better at night. She can play with the kids on the weekend. Her lower back doesn't hurt and everything. But those are stuff where you go, well, it's not really my job. I'm just here to teach you the squat. That's fucking cowardice. But that's what this is.
The squat's a metaphor, right?
This is mostly what we see.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm with you on that 100%. And that's where it really is looking at like, these performance, let's use the term performance coach. It's like, that's great. Sure.
You're so kind.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of things.
It's not working either. That's the thing. It's great, but it's not working. It's working for 6 weeks. How many people lose 10 pounds and gain 20?
Not even that. You're looking at performance coaches and you're looking at these performance athletes and you could see Sarah Sigmund's daughter with her last talk that she just had on the CrossFit Games, Chalk It Up, whatever, right? You're creating performance for what?
Whoa.
Are you creating performance? Are you creating performance? She took third the first year and went downhill from there. And now she's saying like she needs a guy who understands, like she skipped the basics. She needs to go back to the basics. And her coach is very good at psychology because she needs to enjoy what she does again. Mm-hmm. So guess what? The performance led her to less performance. And now to have more performance, she needs to look at the human being. Mm. So guess what? The performance coach, he didn't do performance.
No.
She went downhill. So it wasn't performance anyway.
Yeah. But performance, it cannot be subjected to just objectivity. That's the challenge of it, right? Is that if you want to look at performance, so it's like, okay, let's talk about performance in life and let's deal with the general population because that's what majority of people in the industry do. It's like, what does performance look like for the individuals that you're working with that come into your gym every single fucking day? And it's not 5 pounds on the bar. And this is the thing is that if no one wants to lose weight. People go, I want to lose weight. It's like, no, you don't. You don't want to lose. That's one. And two, it's like the idea of losing weight means that what is that going to give you? Because that's what you want. And so
exactly. You want to feel better about yourself.
Yeah. And so like, what's that about? And people go, I can't do that. I'm not trained in that. It's like, yeah, sure. There's definitely fucking plenty of programs and things that you can learn more about it. So you can play the support role and not be over responsible for that person's results. That's one of the things as well. It's like you said it before, the information has to be stolen. It's like, here is an opportunity for learning. I can't make you drink the water.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Here's the opportunity. What would you like to do?
But okay, going back to performance, a lot of time it's a 6-week thing because if we look at performance over a 2 years period, which is what you need to look at anyway, 6 weeks doesn't mean shit, right? You don't see the performance. You see people burning out, not making progress and everything. So even if we look at performance, it's still not, you can't look at performance on a 6-week smaller cycle, 16 weeks, whatever the fuck it was. 16 weeks smaller cycle. That is not performance. No. Performance, 2 years. Where are you 2 years? If you're not better, then what the fuck have you been doing all this, right? Yeah. That's what performance is. Clock off, taking 10 years to put 14 kilos on his snatch.
Mm. Oh, Eddie Cohn, he's a fucking example, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's performance, right? Because he kept doing it year after year after year. Sarah Sigmund's daughter is the opposite of performance. She started high and went downhill. And now is, from what she was saying, broken physically and psychologically. How the fuck is that performance? Mm. That's what kills me. It's like, guys, you can't tell me if the human being goes down, you're actually doing performance. You might doing it on a 6-week cycle, but at the end, how can you call that performance? It's not.
Well, yeah. Klokoff and Sarah Sigmund's are they're at the edges, right? But you look at the 80% of clients that do functional fitness.
95.
Yeah. And you look at the major population, and it always starts with I want to get healthy, I want to feel better, and then it turns into this massive I need to do this and I need to do this. And they start following these functional fitness, progressional, become a CrossFit Games athlete or go do whatever that is. Or I'm going to go to weightlifting and it becomes this obsession and then becomes an anxiety driven thing that you're constantly losing. And then you're 2 years down the road and that's where the shit starts to hit the fan. And then 3 years down the road, you don't want to fucking do it anymore, yet you still kind of enjoy it and you get little wimps. That's like when you have that toxic relationship where you've broken up 7 times, but you're breaking up for the 8th time, but you kind of look at you like, oh, but I remember when I first met you, it was so much fun. And I just want to go back to those dating moments.
And sex is still good.
Right? All right. And so that's basically what it is that same cycle. And like, I remember last year being there with you and we talked about, creating dependent and independent athletes or, humans.
Yeah.
And that's really the key is if I can teach you what it feels like to squat properly and what it feels like to know when you're going to be angry or sad or depressed or stressed out and how to deal with that, I've now helped you become independent. Rather than me just teaching you to go to a certain depth or to hit certain percentages, but actually spend 1 hour a day showing you what it feels like to feel your fucking hamstring or your glute, you're going to remember that forever. And you can always go back and start using it. Like, people don't realize, like, we've been spending hours upon hours trying to find his left hamstring.
Not exactly. Yeah. Like the long head of the hammy right in the center. All right, so that one is shut off. And so I'm starting, I can't even tell you why. I knew my left hammy there was smaller than the right for years, but I thought it was the foot because I was shifting to the right or whatever. Anyway, I had that one exercise that makes the left one blow up, the left hammy blow up. So I'm at it for, 3 months, 4 months now, every day as a warm up. And then now I'm basically starting to go higher. So it seems that the connection, like to the hip is not right. There's a very small muscle there that seems to be completely turned off. So now I'm basically, as I got better connection to my hammy, I'm starting to get into that. And then I cranked it yesterday for an hour. It fucking hurt for an hour. But you know what I mean? Like, what people understand, this is my warm up every day for 4 months now. And I spend a good 20 minutes, 25 minutes on that alone every day for 4 months. Now I think I know the movement. And by the way, still not where I want.
Sure. Well, it's only 4 months. So this is good. We're moving into the idea, like the subjective components of coaching, like fucking, we can get drunk on that, like 100%.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Like fucking because that sort of stuff is neglected more in the industry, and in day-to-day life as well, of like people just shutting off and not recognizing the subjective reasons why they may not be doing or pursuing what's important to them. So moving on to the objective parts, though, such as finding your hamstrings and everything else, like even at the seminar last year, like looking into the nervous system and how that was like applied to internal and external torque and all those objective, actual, like the physical, biological body of the human being, like what in the seminar specifically are people going to get? I know it's different every time people are there, but what are people going to get out of that, and what are people going to get out of the coaches week as a rough guesstimate?
So, the seminar is basically a foundation. We go.
Did I say something wrong? He's like, no fucking coaching, no more only.
No, so the seminar, the objective is, again, for you to find value in yourself and in what you're doing, right? To find some form of passion that drives you somewhere. So the structure always begins with, I like to always talk about kind of the intent, which we've been talking about intent now for 8 months. And have you noticed in the last 4 months, everybody, all the Insta coaches are going, move with purpose, have purpose to your movement.
Sure.
Anywho. But so the whole point of the seminar is really to just skim the surface of everything that we go into in depth within the Coaches Week and the mentoring program. And so we keep getting closer and closer as to we need to create an apprenticeship program for coaches, right? We have a whole lot of people that do their mentoring programs and do this and do that, but they're just teaching guidelines. Mm-hmm. And so they're giving you if you have this athlete come in, we're going to put them through this. And then we're going to structure the programming this way. And we're going to do this way. And it all seems to be backed up by NASM or ACE certification, or, it's always a certification. And what I want is I want to teach you how your body moves and why it moves that way and why things may get turned off in certain things. So the seminar is the base of that.
Sure.
How do you approach somebody that comes in that, the father just died? How are you going to approach that client? How are you going to approach a client that's been depressed and on depression medication for the last 6 months? And this is the first time he's gone out of bed because the psychiatrist told him to go exercise. Like, are you going to make him better or worse? And is it going to be a short-term better or is it going to be a long-term better? What about people that suffer from panic attacks or anxiety or high stress? So we cover the basis of that in the seminar by going into breathing, how that can manipulate or biohack, whatever that's what we call it, right? Biohacking.
Yeah.
Biohacking
I often biohack pizza, but we'll come back.
I want some pizza. But basically, how does breathing affect the nervous system, and how can it affect you while you're training? Not just giving you a method like go breathe this way and go move this way and you'll see results, but actually going, you know why this is. We can actually go in depth in the back part of it as to how we actually got there. That's the important part, right? If we move a certain way, it's going to do certain things, right? If you start going through workouts, you're going to start noticing certain things within the nervous system that will react to your brain, which will react to the muscles and the whole feedback loop. And so we basically try and give the skim level, if you will, of what we are all about, which is an apprenticeship system for motivated human beings that want to become better at whatever it is they do. A lot of them seem to be passionate people that want to help others. And that's really what we do in the seminar is we show you how the nervous system can be affected from nutrition, breathing, and movement.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reasons behind it. Right. From there, we obviously we do like the openers and things that can correct movement, which is that was our start. And we fucking do an amazing workout at the end of the day to show everybody that you can push really, really hard and not die.
I remember.
Yeah, it will happen again.
AJ
right?
doesn't remember.
No.
You might need to go through some sort of training this time. For
that again, yeah. But yeah, so basically it's that. It's we want to show you the best ways, the reasons why things happen the way they happen.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to give you a 10-step program to fix your shoulder.
Yeah.
And again, this is going deeper into once you go into Coaches Week, I explain why that is. Yeah. And then I actually show you how you need to deal with each person differently based on the muscles that are turned off and turned on and the ones that are overworking and why physios only work on the left one, even though it's the left one that has the issue. And, you know, there's a lot of things that go into it. But it's mainly that it's us explaining the amount of time that we put into being able to understand the human body better.
That's good. And when you're saying human body, we're looking at the human body as like you mentioned, breathing, moving, and what was the other one? Yeah,
and nutrition. So you have you know the nervous system is essentially a learning mechanism for the human body, right? It controls everything. So it reacts to everything. So we can make it do certain things by moving, by eating certain things, and by breathing a certain way. So we can start to re-educate the body and the nervous system more importantly than the body, because the nervous system dictates what the body does. And then from there, we can start to, I mean, now I've gone super deep. Once you go into like Coaches Week and the mentoring program, dude, like I'm getting into some cool shit. Like we're actually able to, we're starting to connect Eastern medicine and acupuncture with the torque chains, with the emotional mapping, with the nervous system, with modern day strength and conditioning. Fucking, my mind right now is blown because this past weekend was fucking huge. But to give you all of that in one weekend, give me a fucking break.
Well, that's the other thing is that it can also, not only is it like too in depth, it's for the first stage, right?
The concept is $2,000 for somebody to approach it.
Yeah.
And that's what you see is we try to give you everything because we find it a disservice for people to come to the seminar and not get what they wanted out of the seminar. And so sometimes the concepts, so if you challenge somebody more than that 4% of their current skill set, boom, it fucking goes way over, right? And that's easier and more convenient to go, yeah, well, if I follow what you know these people say, I just have to do the programming X, Y, and Z. And that's why I think people sometimes want to learn, but also are very afraid of coming to learn from us. Is we expect a fuck ton out of every single one that's committed to wanting to learn. And so the buy-in starts with the seminar, then the Coaches Week, and then you can join the apprenticeship and the mentoring program.
Yeah. Which there's more. This is the interesting thing about it, right? Because there's more at play than I'll pay you money and you teach me. It's like no. That's a very small part of how it works. But that's simply just a part of it. The other part of it is there's an expectation on some degree that you rock up, and when you rock up, you rock up. With everything that you have in this moment now here. Right. And
I mean, within our mentoring program, like I get people and I'm like, hey man, I haven't seen you. So why waste your money? It's not a, you pay for it and therefore you get a nice little golden certificate and your golden star. You know what I mean? Like you're putting in the work. Like it's not a passive thing of me telling you how to fix somebody and you go, oh yeah, I can, yeah, for sure. And then you take a multiple choice test and now all of a sudden you're a fucking coach. No, like show me. I need to see where you're failing. And so it's that you don't put in the work, fucking out. Like I don't want to take your money, and I'm not going to give you any sort of respect if you're not going to put in the work.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's with anything else in life.
Yeah.
It should at least.
So where's it all going now? Like what's you and coach at the moment? Where is it progressing? And I see that cheeky smile.
Oh, bro.
You can ballpark it.
Oh yeah, all right. Here he comes.
I'll come back in. Since I don't shut up, I have to go away. Otherwise, I don't let Richard talk. So there you go.
So where's StrongFit?
Oh my God.
What itch are you scratching?
All right. Well, we started with a nutrition group. So I started a nutrition protocol about 10 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put my coaches in it about six months ago. And 6 weeks ago, I started it was very interesting, what we call auto-regulation nutrition group, which is like people off the streets, basically. They know of StrongFit, but they don't necessarily have, did the seminar or anything like that. So they don't necessarily know the principles. They know of them, but not, so the seminar or anything. And the idea was to have the nutrition based on the nervous system, right? Instead of eating for what happened, eating for what's coming, understanding what the next situation is going to be, how you're going to react to it, like whether you're at work, training, or stuff like that, and basing the nutrition on that. And we have a success rate at about 95%. And by success, I mean like improved sleep right away. Like you're talking like, going from 5 hours to 7-8, REM sleep in the hour and a half to 2 hours, deep sleep goes up. So like true sleep, basically, which was number one. Number two was cravings, right? Because that's, well, we don't talk about it, but most of the problem with diets come from cravings. People fighting themselves as to, oh, I want this, and not being able to eat it. That is such a horrible life. Like, this is why I didn't go into nutrition before, because the idea of wanting to eat something and not being able to for the rest of my life is like, fuck that.
Well,
so the key was, it's not going to last. So the key was like, all right, so there must be a reason for cravings, right? And if I can understand why we have cravings, then I can kill them. So that's basically what we did. So we looked at success was three things, was sleep, cravings, and mental clarity. Instead of being a fog when you wake up or all that stuff, can we basically give you like that, that mental clarity people get on fasted diets? Yeah. When they fast and stuff like that. So I wanted that, but with energy, with food.
Yeah.
And so we are basically at 95%, I would say, success rate on 3.
Okay.
So like, how do we measure it? We have different ways. We have everything from Oura rings, like the Fitbit, all that stuff for the sleep. So we have numbers, and still asking people how they feel. That still works as a way to study the shit. Where do you feel rested this morning when you wake up or not? You'd be surprised how many people say they wake up in the morning more tired than then when they went to bed.
Sure. Yeah. No,
that's a big one, right? Like, do you have cravings? Do you want sugar all day? That's a problem. We should talk about it. Like mental clarity. Are you in a fog half the day? So that was the point of the nutrition. We went at it. But the point of the nutrition wasn't the chemical side of it, was the human side of it. How does that relate to your nervous system and why? And then, of course, it opened a shitload of rabbit holes into the gut flora and the relationship between the nervous system and the gut flora, and then all the funny stuff. That's another rabbit hole that's about 6 podcasts we can have on that one.
On the gut you're talking about?
On the gut flora? Fuck yeah. And why are we not asking the right questions? Like, I mean, we can go into this forever, but like you take the gut flora of a depressed person, a mouse that doesn't have any, raised in a sterile environment, and you hang the mouse upside down. The mouse always gets it. Sorry, people. And so you hang the mouse upside down, and he starts fighting, right? You give the gut flora of a depressed person to that mouse, and he stops fighting. He just accepts wherever he's at, like almost death. All right. And then you keep on. So depressed people have a different gut flora than non-depressed people. It seems they're lacking something. All right. So is that the cause or is that the result? And then it goes on and on and on and on like that. you can transfer. So they've been tested that they had a gut flora of twins. One is obese, one is lean. They took the gut flora of both, gave it to mice, and then the mice that got the obese got obese. The mice that got the lean one stayed lean. And then it just keeps on going like that. So how much of it exactly is the gut flora doing when it comes to behavior? Because if we change gut flora in people, we change behavior.
Fucking crazy. You've heard of feces transplants?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly
what this is.
Yeah,
exactly.
The feces of a healthy human, so just whatever healthy human means, and then putting it in a person.
Yeah, it's just bacteria. So people know it's not shit, it's bacteria. And you change behavior. So the gut has its own nervous system called the enteric nervous system. It produces 95% of the serotonin in the body, which is a neurotransmitter, and 50% of the dopamine, which is another transmitter. By the way, our nervous system is serotonin, dopamine based.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So is that important? The fact that most of it is produced in the gut. Motherfuckers, why are we not talking about this?
Yeah, like it's so fucking fresh, isn't it? It's so new, so recent, so to speak. Like
20 years. No, that's the problem is we do everything. So we didn't, most of those bacteria cannot survive in a petri dish. So which means we could not study them until 20 years ago when we started to do DNA testing on stool and stuff like that. So that's why we know so little.
Yeah.
But so much, there's so many questions coming out of that. They say diet changes it, but are we sure? There seems to be types of people that favor certain bacteria versus others. So we say the enteric nervous system is the second brain. Is it the second brain or is it the first brain? Because it's been there for a long time, right? It has more neurons than the spinal cord. So he has more neurons than the central nervous system, technically. Oh man, he goes on and on and on like that.
So you're having some fun at the moment, right? That's what you're working on at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And so because the diet, food is our way of talking to the gut flora.
Yeah.
Because certain part of the gut flora called the bacteroids respond to protein, saturated fats, right? And then you have the prevotella that responds to starch and sugars.
Okay.
So what you eat talks to a certain colony in your stomach. And that in response goes into, so that's through the nervous system. So that means that the food that you ingest will have a reaction out of you in your nervous system. I'm like, okay, so there are certain foods that are better to train and other foods that are better to heal or socialize or stuff like that, right? If we understand that, that means we can use the right food for socializing and then the right food for training.
Mm-hmm.
But what you see instead is us mixing them together all the time. All right, what if there's a contraindication to the mixing? And there is, trust me. What if we keep confusing the fuck out of the nervous system by mixing foods where they shouldn't be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is what we see all the time. So like that balanced meal that you have where you have fat, carbs, and protein at the same time might actually fuck you up. Because it's the same thing. No, because the carbs trigger the sympathetic, which lowers digestion, by the way. And that, all that has been proven. If you have carbs, you trigger a sympathetic response. Like that's what sugar does. You can see sugar on kids, right? All right. Once you're in the sympathetic nervous system, the digestion starts to shut off. It's a signal from the sympathetic to the enteric nervous system to stop digestive process because you need the energy to run away from the bear.
Yeah.
Or to kill it. Right. So that means whenever you have carbs, you're in a fight mode or flight mode, but that means you can't digest properly. So why would you have carbs and protein then? Since protein requires the high level of digestion.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, that's a problem because we all have carbs and protein together.
Yeah. Meat and veg, buddy. Give me some potato.
So, yeah, so you know what I mean? Like, but okay, so maybe they were not crazy when they say meat and veggies. And you know what I mean? So maybe the problem is not low carb. The problem is when carbs. Like that might be, so that's why maybe there's so many different diets. It's, again, the issue is not low carbs. The issue is carbs, but not with protein. Maybe that alone makes a difference. And that's what we saw in the nutrition we've been developing through the nervous system is that it's not so much a matter of low carbs. It's a fact that carbs have to be eaten by themselves and have to be used for training, for a sympathetic response. Whereas most people have carbs and do nothing, stay on the couch. That kills you. But you can't blame the carbs. You have to blame when you have the carbs and what you did with them. That's the problem. Right? So that's how we looked at nutrition. It's like, stop having dogmatic view on carbs is bad or fat is bad or whatever the fuck. Don't be vegan or whatever. It's not the point. Is there is a food for each activity and we have to understand which one is which.
Okay. And so where does fats come into that sort of picture?
So fats, that's very interesting. So if you look, the Pareto distribution, the 80-20 rule, that seems to apply to everything in life. Like IQ, you have extremes and then you have most people in the center, right? You see that in cities, most people are in the center and then you have less and less on the outside, right? So you start to see that distribution, 80-20 rule, works for everything. So it's a little bit the same thing for nutrition. If you look, protein and carbs seems to be more the extreme. The center seems to be the fats, right? So you have saturated fats that are more toward the parasympathetic and unsaturated that are more toward the sympathetic. So one will give you energy, the other one will be more toward like parasympathetic side of things. And so
give me 2 moments. Sorry, dude. My just hold that thought. My fucking dog just ran out the door because it just got open. Sorry, bro.
Yeah. The dog ran out the door. It's awesome. And he's in the streets and running away. He's not that good of an owner. There he is.
What was that?
Hi. 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 I'm not even social.
Sorry, legend. My coach just came to say goodbye. I didn't realize I'm on a call, and then the door didn't quite shut, and the guy was like, "Fuck yeah, time to poop."
Exactly.
Yeah. All this carb talk's making me want to poop. Yeah. Anyway, so please, fats, continue.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot of the energy, like for example, not that there's such a thing as a calorie, but you can see fats basically provide a lot more energy than protein or carbs. Protein and carbs are, the 4 to 9 thing. They seem to be more on the extreme of the equation. Like if you look at carbs, they're extremely seasonal in nature, right? Yeah. Honey is once in a while, so are fruits. Stuff, even like if you go with starches, stuff like that. And then protein is whenever you're hunting. There's only usually per culture, there's only very few sources of protein. Look at Scandinavian, it's mostly fish. Sure. So was Japan. If you look at Europe, you have like 4 kinds of meat, but that's about it. Like lean red meat is actually rare. You go mostly porks. I mean, so that's, I think we fundamentally misunderstand the nature of food in that sense. Like we've been told like it's a lot of carbs, lots of protein. And I think those are extremes on the Pareto distribution. Most of the energy seems to come from fat, really. And after that is how much protein do you need? If you look at what we're told, like eat every 3 hours and always in protein, that would mean that you need to be in parasympathetic state 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So I have 2 questions. First of all, is that what we want? And second of all, is that feasible? Are we supposed to be in parasympathetic 24/7? If we look at hormonally speaking, like they're all going to tell you the same thing, daylight means sympathetic because you're supposed to be outside hunting or being hunted.
Sure. Yeah.
So the idea of being in parasympathetic all day means you're going to be on the couch all day. So then here comes my point number 2. Is that realistic? You're going to tell me that you have absolutely no stress ever 24/7, that nothing you have to deal with. If that's the case, where have you been? Like, welcome to life. It doesn't work like that. So basically, you can't namaste the better way. No. That idea that we can be in parasympathetic all the time is because we're so fucking lazy. We got soft. You don't hunt for food anymore. You don't hunt for shelter. You're neither hot or cold. You don't have to fight for women. We don't do shit anymore. But now we're even doing it worse than that. We're promoting the idea that you have to be in parasympathetic all day. That's fucking insane. That's insane. That's why we need training more than ever, because we need to get people in the fucking sympathetic state. 300,000 years of evolution means you were in sympathetic half the day. Daytime. Fuck, you're hunting or being hunted. Hunting for shelter, hunting for women, hunting for food. You know what I mean? Or being hunted for all.
Yeah. It's a massive challenge. Hey, like looking at, when we're ignoring the like historical biological evidence of what a human being is and does, and simply just applying current moral standards or current legal like I'm not trying to talk around anything that's horrible things to do. I'm not saying we should just go bash people, as in like that's what we did many years ago. I'm not saying that specifically, but what I'm getting at is that there are these inherent, well, hence BJJ, right? Like, and everything else, right? Like there is this level of like, and that's also to feed into something else. That's also this need for human touch, Like, that's this need of knowing, where are my extremities? Like, why the fuck do you think kids play and wrestle? And why do you think dogs play and wrestle?
You need both. It's such a dangerous thing to avoid. Like, that's how you get really bad shit happening, is we cannot avoid the sympathetic side. But so I also think the nutrition is we've been basically fed the same shit by an industry that sells carbs and protein, right? Where a lot of the, you know what I mean? Like, that idea of promoting the parasympathetic all day seems to me a cultural issue, and then also a Western producing society that basically sells shit, right? Like, every time you try to read a study about the gut flora, it always finishes with the same two sentences: a pill is coming. Right? That's the only thing we study, is to fucking sell a pill coming up, even though we don't understand the stuff. So before we understand it, we're going to sell it. Okay. And here comes the same thing with nutrition, like protein and carbs. And I'm like, are we sure it's 40, 40, 20? 40% protein, 40% carb, 20% fat? Or is it the other way? Is it 80% fat? And everybody's like, well, you need to produce muscle. You can't produce muscle by the way, you don't produce muscle because of the protein you're eating. You're producing muscle because your hormonal system is going into an anabolic phase. That is decided by your nervous system, not by how much chicken you ate. Right? We're being influenced by bodybuilders that have changed their natural hormonal systems through the use of steroids. I'm not against it. I'm just saying it changes things. Right? But that's who we're looking at. We're looking at bodybuilders that are basically eating chicken all day. That's maybe because they have so much hormone going through their body. They're in a sympathetic side from the hormones. And then they're trying to counteract that by eating all day, because they're on the extremes already from what they do. Bodybuilding is the most extreme sport there is. Right? And so we basically follow that, but without understanding the guidelines behind it. Instead of trying to follow the nervous system and understanding that muscle production comes from a hormonal thing, not from the amount of protein. And then you start to go into the entire fitness industry that is basing how much protein you should have on how much protein is on your plate, how much food is ingested, instead of how much food is digested. It's not about the amount of protein on your plate. It's about the amount of protein that goes in your system. And that goes to digestion. And the state of your nervous system will decide whether you're digesting or not. So that fucking matters then.
Right. And so we're looking at something like protein. And so what's going to help us digest that more as a human?
All right. So to digest protein, you have to be in the parasympathetic side of your nervous system.
Yeah.
Right. So it encompasses certain things. That means you're not in the hunting or hunted or being hunted mode. You're not on the sympathetic side. That means you can't have carbs, first of all.
Okay.
So now we go fully into parasympathetic to digest protein. That means that you can't be on social media. You can't be stressing. You can't be a fight with your wife. You can't have all that stuff, because again, it takes you toward the sympathetic reaction. So that means like socialization, meal rituals basically will matter just as much as the quality of the food that you have in front of you and stuff like that. So the idea that to digest red meat, which is the hardest thing to digest, you're going to have to be in a full parasympathetic, which requires socialization, certain rituals.
Like we're doing like a Brazilian barbecue, like the benefits of like literally a Brazilian barbecue.
Exactly, because that's a polyvagal theory. We know that parasympathetic is socialization, the ability to live in a tribe. So you're amongst your tribes people, you're having an awesome time, you can digest better. That's 101, by the way. I'm not making the shit up. It's not just paleontology. The polyvagal theory tells you that, right? So there are so many things. So that means that you can only have protein at night. Can you do that during the day? Well, I guess that depends on your day. But if you have a sort of protein and then you go back to work, you're not going to tell me work is good socialization. You're going to stress, you have a fight with your boss, you're back to sympathetic, you're not digesting the protein. So who cares how much you ate, basically, if you're not digesting it?
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's where, you know what I mean? So we have to understand how humans work. Otherwise, that fucking plate in front of yours is useless. It's more than that, because now the protein is not being digested. I mean, it's going to sit in your colon, putrefying, and killing your gut flora. And we know that gut flora's modification implies behavior modification. So by having protein you cannot digest, you will fuck up your own behavior over time. It goes on and on and on and on like this. Those are simple concepts, right? So we have to stop selling shit and understanding the responsibility we have toward the human race.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going this year.
Yeah. I get passionate, whatever.
Well, I mean, like it ties. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it ties back into the last sentence what you said just there, right? It's a big difference. It's a big difference between just selling shit for the sake of selling shit, right? And it's like, well, we got to make a living. It's like that's not a fucking
That's
living.
not enough.
That's
not
not
enough because
living.
you're playing with people's health. And you know what? You want to make a living, be a fucking bartender.
But think about this for a second, though. Think about the word they're using, living. It's like,
yes,
you're not living, mate. That's not living.
No, you're dying slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like selling something for the sake of selling something isn't actually a life, right?
No,
because
again, in that case, go sell ice cream or be a bartender.
yeah,
but you don't. To me, you don't have the right to be selling people dreams about health and being able to sleep at night and not put the work behind it.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
That's why I get paid.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to me, it's not right.
Yeah.
You got him riled up. He needs whiskey.
That's good. Yeah. That's good.
But that's what we're heading into this year.
Yeah. Well, it's opening up a larger viewpoint of the whole picture, right? And so we're starting to look at even nutrition, such as on an individual level. It's looking at it on a larger level, on an environmental level, I suppose.
Yeah, and just being able to talk about this stuff, and people get so emotional. Nutrition is a big one because people get really emotional. Like movement and methodologies and stuff, people get really challenged. But like nutrition it's an interesting one to see in like the seminars, because he'll start talking about it. People get extremely emotional about it all because you're messing with their food. The bacteria doesn't like it.
Sure, yeah.
It's yelling at you.
Yeah, there's a whole heap of things. Yeah, there's a whole heap of things going on, right? It's like it's also the challenge of there's a potentiality here that maybe we got it wrong, and it's like, hang on a sec, I'm not ready to eat that yet. There you go.
Well, especially when you have the generations of this is how we do things.
Yeah.
I mean, how dare you change that? Obviously, shit's not working.
Well, yeah, and it's not working on a large level, and it does come down heavily to the idea that we're not in an obesity epidemic at the moment. That's not what we're in. That's a symptom, right?
Yeah.
We're in the mass marketing and misinformation epidemic, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're in. He's going off, bro. You started him.
What did he say?
He's just going off, walking around. He's about to go throw shit. But yeah, I mean, I that's a symptom, right? And so what is the root cause of it? And but you start looking at that with depression, with anxiety. Those are all symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And so regulating that shit and being able to work on that, like, bro, that's been my thing for like the next, I mean, since Canberra to now, it's been that. Like for me, watching the Avicii documentary was fucking eye-opening, because you see the guy, he tells you where the pain is, he tells you what's happening, you see the anxiety, you see the panic attacks, and they still fucking push it.
Yeah.
And they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And you're like, bro, you gotta do something. Like, how is nobody fucking helping this guy? And you see him go to the trainer and he's doing his personal training and he starts having that sensation of panic attack. And you watch the trainer, he goes, you feel like having a panic attack? And he's like, yeah. He goes, the heart can't tell a difference if it's a panic attack or if it's exercise. And the trainer kind of just like, he wants to help, but you could tell he's like, oh, and kind of just walks away and lets him relax. It's like, we have to understand this shit way better.
Yeah. You go.
All these symptoms seem to be fucking destroying a lot of lives.
And I'm really interested to hear the different angles, because like the angle that all I do with my coaching on things such as, well, depressions. I mean, you can't put a blanket over depression, right? But let's talk about heavy sad states, and let's say anxiety as well, right? And so a lot of that sort of stuff, the angle that I look at is not yet in the same angle of yourself of going, what's nutrition and what's the environment, yes, but a lot of it's to do with what's referred to as meta states, right? And so meta states meaning states about states or thoughts about states. And so that shifts this idea of anxiousness as not something that we have, but something that we do.
It's part of the flight state, but we can't look at anxiety or depression as a positive or a negative. It's a function of the body.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's exactly right.
I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Is that people are afraid to talk about that shit because it's always in a negative note.
No, anxiousness points at your potential. You wouldn't be anxious about something that you couldn't do.
You get anxiety, just like you would get anxiety if you're going to go to Disneyland, because you're like, oh, fuck me, yeah, Disneyland. It's still anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
It's preparing you for what's to come.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about the future.
It's essentially a mental fight, if you will. But when you go mentally and physically both into a sympathetic state, now you're fucked, because that's a panic attack, because now you don't have control over the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety allows you to get all these thoughts and multitask and flow, essentially, right? But if you have all these thoughts and now you can't control them, then you go into a fucking panic attack. You go into having anxiety and having issues like that. But now we need to learn how to deal with it. And that's the problem. It's how you start to regulate that. Because whenever you see anybody with anxiety, what's the first thing they start to do? They start to become ritualistic. They start to put rules so they don't have these panic attacks come back. Always. You start seeing it over and over again, right? They start to falsify their inability to want to socialize by expressing anger. So you see people that they're always assholes, right? Like they're just like super short and like don't really want to socialize. So for me is you can't have an empathetic reaction. So therefore you start becoming more anxious because you want to control everything. And somehow you start to recluse and you start to create rules and I see these same patterns over and over again. So now we just need to start to regulate that. Part of it being with nutrition, part of it being with movement. Like it's still always going to be about movement. If we're meant to always be moving. Right. And so that's where he's gone through like the bacteria and all that stuff. And I'm going into the emotional mapping. And right now I'm basically linking how traumas are stored in the body and in which muscles. And dude, since I started with you, I'm like maybe 120 assessments in that sense. And it's always the same thing. It's always come up. And so now we can actually start to do something at the root cause, not just at the symptom. Right. That's the bigger thing. And so, I mean, it's always going to be about semantics and people are going to take words and, that delivery of message needs to be clear because people will find ways to challenge it
and that's a human, almost a human right. But that's the real. I mean, I remember talking to somebody that came to the seminar last year and they talked about, fighting and, the idea of fight or flight. And it's like, people aren't fighting in the gym. It's like, no. Like, the definition of meaning, right? Like they're two different things.
You're thinking fighting. You're thinking that we're going to go fucking punch each other out.
Sure, yeah. And so here's a definition, but we need to be able to look at, and actually this goes back onto the stealing information or stealing knowledge. It's like you use this. How are you using that word? Can you speak to that? Not rather than simply just it's called calibration, right? And so otherwise you go happiness, and then I grab my sensation that I get and my thoughts that I get about happiness and go, I understand. It's like, I can't, because that's me experiencing happiness and my subjective experience and vice versa.
If we take it to basics levels, it's teaching a squat.
Yeah.
My feeling of a squat to your feeling of a squat are potentially completely different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's basically what it comes down to is we need to educate people on feeling what works best for them and how it's going to work best for them, but not justifying and being like all Hercules, you know what I mean? Like actually fucking having them do the hard work of pacing themselves and doing better for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working towards.
Well, yeah, it just comes back to, so one of the other things that we use here, I think I've talked to you before about is health IQ, right? And so health IQ is my understanding how food and movement and thinking affect my body or affect my life, really. And so that's where it comes under 3 areas: move, mind, mouth. It's like my health IQ is in reference to how well I'm connected to all 3 of those areas. Those 3 centers, if you want to call them that. And so it's making sure, like, I don't know somebody's body better than them.
Right.
I can't. I'm not in it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we do these things. I was like, so what did you feel? And they have no fucking clue how to answer. I'm like, what did you feel? No fucking clue how to answer. And I'm like, you've been moving the weight for like about a good minute and a half and you don't know what you're feeling or how you're feeling. Can we talk about that a little bit? Right?
Yeah. It's like, or don't.
Yeah. Or just be a zombie. Yeah.
Yeah. Just understand if there's, You get to choose your actions. You don't get to choose the consequences to those actions, right?
You choose your actions. You don't get to choose your consequences.
Yeah. So what I'm saying there is like, you go, do you want to talk about that? I get to choose whether I want to talk about that or not. I don't get to choose the consequences of whether I talk about that or not.
Yeah, you set a prediction for yourself, and you work towards that experience.
Yeah, sure, but you're not choosing. Yeah. So
you know full well what kind of consequence is going to come up if you go rob a bank.
So I think it's
and you know the consequences coming out. See, now fucking semantics. I love it.
So yeah, you're exactly right. This is talking semantics. It's like what I'm in charge of though is not how the world responds to my actions. So there may be a prediction like you're talking about. Yes. However,
now that makes sense. Yeah. So that's me when I work with people with issues or traumas in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I try to basically take them through exercise to face those issues. Meaning that you still are held up for something that your dad did or your mom did or a kid did in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
And normal people will be like, get over that. Like just choose to accept it and it happened and whatever. I take people through exercise to go through and express how they felt in that moment in time. Meaning that if you're able to release the anger that you had for your dad, your mom, the kid in school, whatever, the bully, through exercise, and we can represent the fight that you were supposed to have that you had in your head so many times but never fully expressed at that time, we can express that through exercise and through movement. Now we can start to release things because you being pissed off about it compared to that dude that actually did the thing and he doesn't even remember that time. So you're the one that's holding on to that, right? Is that what we're talking about, kind of ish?
I mean, if you want to talk about rabbit holes, it's connected. It's always going to be connected.
Yeah.
My point of saying you get to choose your actions. You don't get to choose the consequences of those actions. Is the idea of like, hey, I've noticed this. Do you want to talk about that? Because that's the offer, right? Do you want to?
Right.
And if the person goes yes, then they don't get to choose what the consequences of going into it. It's like it's a fucking exploration, mate, and whatever comes up comes up. Like you got to ask the question that you've never asked, wanting to know the answer you don't want to know. Like there's that element, but there's also the element of do you want to talk more about that? And I say no. I get to choose no, but I don't get to choose the consequences of that no. And what I'm saying is over the next 1 year to 5 years to 10 years, etc.
You'll be back. You'll say yes eventually.
Yeah, it's somewhere for sure.
I'll offer with somewhere.
Well, we can't say no without saying yes, right?
Yeah.
So
that makes now I get it.
Yeah. So that's where it's like simply looking at the things that is within our choice of control, which is speech, behavior, emotions, and thoughts. And that's it. That's all it is.
Yeah. Life, huh?
Yeah.
So simple.
Yeah.
Not even.
Yeah. So beautiful. So
Solid,
we got your seminar and that's coming up on the
yeah, it's April. What is it? April what?
The weekend of the 7th.
7th, right?
April. I just went past it. Yeah, 6th and 7th of April.
Beautiful. I'm excited.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait. So I got a wedding on that 7th, which sucks. I got to speak to Nathan from Melbourne. 6th and 7th. However, then Coaches Week is 8th through the 11th, correct?
8th, 9th, 10th. Yes, 7th, 8th, then 9th, 10th, 11th. Yeah.
And then you have a wedding on Friday, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I'm excited. It's actually one of the guys. He did the seminar Coaches Week, and then he did the seminar Coaches Week the second time we were in Melbourne. Melbourne.
I believe foreigners pronounce it Melbourne.
Melbourne. Melbourne. But yeah, I got basically invited. I try to become like the groomsman, and I try to I didn't want to step on toes. I felt bad for Mick.
Don't ever feel bad for him.
I found out that he was getting engaged before he found out he was getting engaged. That's the best part.
Yeah, I mean it even helps my life knowing that bit of information. So for those listening, Mick's one of the coaches here at my gym, and so Ben's.
That's the type of connection I like to have with my clients. You know, you meet them for a week and then you get invited to their wedding. It's kind of cool. Why not?
Yeah. It makes sense, and I'm pretty sure from what I hear is that it may not have even been Ben. That might have been the driver in that. It might have been Ali. So, yeah, which also makes sense. Look at that jawline. Very good. So how long are you planning on being in Australia for?
That's what I'm trying to work out right now. I'm not sure. I'm thinking that week, and then I don't know if we're going to go after the wedding. I kind of want to do the coast a little bit, but I don't know if I need to be back here or not.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out the logistics.
Sure.
But I'll let you.
Yeah, let us know. Even if we go before the
Yeah, we can do. Maybe we'll do before we could do the coast, huh?
Mm.
Do some. Is it going to be cold over there by then?
So early April, it'll be cooling down, but it won't be cold yet. So we have the general rule of the like late April. There's a day where that becomes a switch. Anzac Day, it's called.
Cool.
So yeah, it'll be good.
Solid, dude.
Beautiful.
I dig it. I'm excited.
Me too, man. So we'll make sure we catch up again before you guys get over. Otherwise, if you want to find out more information on StrongFit and the seminars, where do they go?
StrongFit.com, and then they go to StrongFit1 for Instagram, or they can follow us on Facebook as well.
Yep. Beautiful.
StrongFit
Very good.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Awesome,
indeed.
dude.
And then on YouTube, I know you guys put a lot of content.
YouTube. Yes, we have a fuck ton of content on YouTube, and the podcast. We have a podcast as well now.
Yeah.
Spotify and iTunes.
Yep.
We're trying to go everywhere.
Well, the thing about it is that this information needs to be there, right? It needs to be able to be accessed.
There's a whole lot. We put a lot of time in, not just time to get everything out to the people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Love your work. Well, thank you, and thanks, Coach, as well. Is Coach still there?
Yeah. He's reading a study about something.
Yeah, give blow him a kiss for me.
Will do.
And then I'll see you in person in just a couple of months. Otherwise,
yeah, that'll be exciting.
I'll see you face even sooner.
Awesome, man. Have a good one.
You too, brother.
All right, bye.